Today's episode of the WAC Podcast is presented by Hercules Tires. Now here's your host, Eric Danner.
Welcome back to the WAC Podcast, brought to you by Hercules Tires. We're now joined by Cameron Dietz, the Assistant Strength and Conditioning Coach at Utah Valley University. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Cameron, first off, obviously it's been a different year for everybody and all kinds of different capacities in athletics. Give us an update. How are things going in Orem right now, which is where you are, and what's the status of having student athletes back on campus?
Yeah, so we've had student athletes back on campus for probably at least the last 4 weeks, I want to say. So this is kind of week 5. We've had everything's voluntary, but we've had men's and women's soccer. I've got a couple golfers, baseball players, softball players. I know a handful of basketball teams are back too. So I know that wrestling's doing their off-season stuff, Big 12. I know that track and field's got some people. So yeah, just kind of small groups of, people that are here voluntarily. A lot of people live locally, so they stay here for the summer. So.
Now, what are the rules with student athletes coming back in terms of strength and conditioning? I mean, everybody always thinks that you just do stuff in the weight room, which you do stuff kind of all over the place. What are the group sizes? How do you keep student athletes safe as possible?
So right now we've got checks every morning or whatever time they come in. So we'll do temperature checks. We've got like symptoms checklists that we go through, have everybody sign in. The coaches and the athletic trainers are here throughout their lifts, and we have we've got our facial protection. We've got our masks and stuff. The athletes wear their masks in. We require them to go and wash their hands before they enter the facility. Just kind of leave anything that they've got maybe in their car or on their hands or anything like that outside. So then when they come in, they're required to have their masks until we start to exercise. I know that there's been talks of that changing when the semester starts because we'll have even bigger groups. But right now we've got 7 racks in our main weight room. So we're having no groups bigger than 7. That way we're still kind of maintaining social distance. We're still everybody doesn't have to share equipment when that's the case. And then really the way we've broken it up is if we've got a bigger group, let's say right now women's soccer's lifting. So I think they've got about 14, 15 girls. So half of them will start with their kind of running, conditioning, agility, warm up, stuff like that. And then the other half will start in the weight room, and then they'll kind of flip halfway through. So still trying to do the best that we can with the space that we have, and just adjusting, the way that we program, the way that we coach, the way that we run our weight rooms.
Are they doing those agility and those kind of workouts outside then? Do they take turns inside, outside?
So our main weight room is in our indoor turf facility. So the weight room lines up right next to the 120-yard indoor soccer field. So it's nice as a coach where you can kind of have eyes on both, especially if you're here by yourself or if you've got a bigger group. But we've got a fence that separates our weight room and separates our field. So.
And then I would assume if anybody feels like they're having any kind of symptoms, they check themselves out.
Yeah, exactly. So most of the time, I'll get texts, hey, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to see if I feel better tomorrow or whatever the case is. I've had a handful of people go and get tested just because it was, hey, I've been in contact with somebody that just found out that they have it. So I had a softball player and 3 baseball players all go get tested the end of last week, and all their tests came back negative. So I mean, when their tests come back negative, they're in the clear to come as long as they're feeling good. So
now with the lockdown happening mid-March, obviously everything was kind of thrown into chaos a little bit there. At what point did you start having conversations with student athletes as far as keeping in shape, getting ready for the summer, getting ready for the fall, those kind of conversations?
I mean, as soon as everybody went back home, because the shutdown happened right when our spring break happened. So most people got on planes or got in their cars or whatever and drove home anyways. And obviously we didn't know how long that was going to last. We just knew that, the WAC tournament for basketball had gotten kind of canned right there, right as it was starting. And so people went home because it was going to be spring break anyways, like they had planned that. And a lot of people just didn't come back. And so as soon as they went home, I got to work on a program because I didn't know if it was going to be a temporary shutdown and, like our spring sports were still going to get to play a tournament. The WAC hadn't announced whether they were going to fully cancel the season. They were one of the later conferences to do that, which I think is smart because, if you jump to conclusions and you cancel everything right away and then everything had cleared up, then it's like, okay, well, we've wasted a whole year, right? We wasted a whole semester for spring sports. So we kind of held out hope that we were still going to have a chance to do it. So people were kind of staying in shape, doing kind of in-season lifting where the intensity and the volume isn't as high if they have access to a weight room or doing whatever they can at the house. And so as things started to get, appear like they were going to stay canceled and be canceled for real, we moved towards hey, what can we do from home? What kind of program can we give the athletes to have from home? So I try and keep it simple where, we've got our movements where like we're going to squat, we're going to push, we're going to pull, we're going to hinge and jump and run. And, we're just going to do these athletic things. And so I put together a program, and then on my Instagram, I just did a couple videos of those workouts with stuff around my house. So, I filled a backpack with books, about 75 pounds of books, and I was holding my 65-pound dog, and I was doing my squats. And so like I made the video and I put it on Instagram, and people were like, hey, I don't have a dog. It's like, okay, well, what do you have? Like, let's figure out what you have. Like, let's figure out what we can do, not what we can't do. Hey, I can't do this. I don't have a barbell. Hey, I can't do this. I don't have, whatever the case is. Let's figure out what you can do, and go from there. So, hopefully the athletes have been doing it. I try and keep in touch with them. I've got about 100 athletes to myself, so trying to stay in touch with them. They all have my number. They all know how to reach me. So if they ever need anything, when gyms started to open back up, people reached out to me. Hey, Cam, what weight should I start at? I haven't lifted in a while, and it's just getting back into it, doing the best that we can to get ahead of the curve when we are able to come back.
So with student athletes coming back, and we're talking with Cameron Dietz from Utah Valley, when they started coming back, were they in similar shape that you would normally see in a summer? Did you see some that maybe were in better shape, some that maybe weren't as in good a shape, or is it kind of down the middle when they came back on campus?
You'll see a lot of both. I think the biggest thing that I tried to do was have everybody start to sprint, because speed is one of the first things that you'll lose, like athletic quality wise. So I wanted to make sure that they continued to sprint if they could. I've got a baseball guy that lives in New York, and in New York they were like locked down hard. So I'm not sure how much he's even been able to sprint, but I know that he has some stuff around his house, pull-up bar, stuff like that, where I know he's been doing what he can. And if we can't have him sprint legitimately, maybe we can have him. I mean, like, he sent me videos of him running down the hall, like in his apartment, so just adjusting to, like I said, what do you have or what can you do, rather than making excuses, not doing anything. For the people that have come back, I mean, I've had some people come back staying about the same strength. I've had some people come back weaker, but they're in good shape because they've been running. And doing some more distance things, but they've lost some strength because they haven't been able to lift weights. But, the sooner that the athletes can get back in the weight room and just get back to the basics and follow our basic progression, the better off they're going to be for when the semester starts. So, it's just trying to encourage something's better than nothing. I don't want a bunch of keyboard or thumb warriors playing Call of Duty for the baseball guys, or some of the girls just not doing as much. But as long as they're doing something, I that's all I can ask for at this point.
Now, how much communication do you have with the coaches then, especially when the student athletes weren't on campus? Are there specific things the coaches were hoping to have their players do to get back into shape, or to get in maybe a different kind of shape? And how do they communicate with you, and how do you communicate with them?
So early on, we had like I said, we were trying to maintain game shape, right? So most of 4 of the 5 sports that I have are all spring sports. So it was trying to just maintain, like, hey, like, if it's on, if we come back and we're ready to go, like, what can we do to keep the athletes ready to go, right? And then as that progressed, it's like, okay, like, we're looking towards next year, and for me, if I'm looking towards next year, I don't want to jump back into things, lifting 5 times a week or, running every day or whatever the case is. I wanted to ease back into it because, really in the grand scheme of things, I've got, a 10-month off season for some of these sports, starting in March. So I didn't want to start too early by doing too much. And really that communication with the coaches has been, I've had phone calls with all my coaches. We'll text. We've had Zoom calls. I know men's soccer, we were doing weekly and bi-weekly meetings with all the players so that if they had questions, they could ask. If we had things that we were trying to give them, if, we needed to communicate with them, we could communicate with them. So I know the athletic trainers are reaching out to everybody once a week. So if any, we've always been able to have a really good conversation between the sport coach, between the athletic trainer, between myself. And so, just having that contact so that they know that they're not in this alone, and that's the last feeling that we want the athletes to have is, I'm out here in, Arkansas and I'm by myself and I haven't heard from anybody. And I don't know if we're coming back to school in August or, whatever the case is. So just trying to keep all of us in contact with the players and with each other too.
Talking with Cameron Dietz from Utah Valley, and you mentioned that the facilities a little bit earlier, Cameron. Describe to us what you have there at Utah Valley, maybe versus some other schools you've been at.
So here we've got our largest weight room is 7 racks here inside the training dome, inside the indoor turf field. It allows us to use field space and use the weight room space at the same time. I use a lot of different contrast sets in my training, so it gives me a ton of space to do medicine ball throws out on the field where the ceiling's 50 feet in the air, so I don't have to worry about anybody throwing a ball through the roof or anything like that. So, it allows us to have some good space out here. We've got 5 racks in the baseball weight room. The only time that we ever use that really is when we have like in season with baseball guys that need to lift at a different time than that morning group lift. It's smaller, so I can't get all the baseball guys in there, and they work better. They kind of thrive off each other working in a big group. So if I can get all 35 of them in the weight room here, I'd rather do that. But we have 5 racks over there at the baseball stadium. And then the basketball weight room has 3 racks right now. So men's and women's basketball is using that. They've also got their indoor practice court there at the Newbie Training Center. And then I believe there's some training space out by the track and field as well. Kind of, they call it the shed, but they've got some free weights out there also that they'll use, especially in season because they're in their outdoor season.
The people who haven't been to Utah Valley, been there several times since joining the WAC. It's a pretty unbelievable setting there that you have in Orem. And you growing up in Colorado, obviously used to the mountains, but maybe not quite like they are there in Orem.
Yeah, it's the biggest difference is the mountains here go from we're elevations, let's say 4,500 feet, and then we're in the valley and everything around us, the mountains instantly shoot up to like 9,000 feet. So they look way bigger, even though there aren't any 14ers like there are in Colorado to like hike and kind of notch off your bucket list, but they look bigger here. And one of my favorite views is the backdrop behind the baseball stadium. And you look out to left field and the sun's setting on the mountain range out in left field, and it's a really cool place to live. A lot of outdoor stuff to do if that's kind of the things that you like to do. So.
And you growing up in Colorado, you played some college baseball as well. At what point did you decide this is the path I want to go down, being a strength and conditioning coach?
So I knew really early on that I wasn't talented enough to play professional baseball. I mean, it was my kid dream to go play pro ball, but I just knew that wasn't going to be the case. And so I started thinking about probably so I wrote for the school newspaper. I was like the sports guy, I guess. And I loved sports journalism. It was dead set. That's what I wanted to do. And when I got to undergrad, I thought for sure that I was going to do journalism or some kind of English and then get into journalism. And through, as being an athlete, I was working out, and I had a TA that I took an intro to weights class with at UCCS, Joe Todd. He was an awesome influence really early on, and I really enjoyed, learning how the body adapts to certain stimulus and how exercise and can change your physiology, make you better. It can make you a better athlete. You get stronger doing this. You get more powerful doing this. You can get faster, and you can always, the weight room and strength and conditioning, running, all that stuff. It all combines together into this one big idea that you can always elevate yourself. You can always do something to get better, and so that's something that I really enjoyed. And now it's kind of my passion to help elevate others, help elevate the athletes that I work with. I want to, if I get a freshman that comes in, I want to help them make the starting lineup, and then I want to help them win WAC Player of the Year, and then I want to help them get drafted, go play Major League Baseball. I never got the chance to, so the more guys that I can help get there in any way that I can, that's my goal. That's what I live for.
And when you say UCCS, that's University of Colorado. Colorado Springs, a place I know very well. And Cameron, being a coach now, do you see yourself as a motivational type coach? Do you have to get after student athletes? What are some of your approaches to help them become the best student athletes they can be?
I think from what I've seen from the guys that I've worked for, guys and girls that I've worked for, I think when you're a strength and conditioning coach, the best thing you can do is be a chameleon. So I want to be adaptable. So, if baseball, I need to be a little bit more stern with them at times, then I can do that. And softball, if we're going to have more fun and I can joke around with them, I want to be able to do that. And golf's a little bit more laid back, but maybe women's golf and men's golf need something different. And men's soccer, brand new program to the weight room for us, at least starting in January. And so, being able to adapt and adjust and be what the team needs, be what the coaches need. I don't want to be rigid and stern, and I don't want to be carefree and lax when they may need something else. So I think that you get to know the athletes, you get to know the team and that culture, and then you do the best you can to complement the sport coach. If it comes down from the top and the sport coach wants, whatever they may want, you got to be able to deliver that. And sometimes that message needs to be this way, or sometimes it needs to be another way. So just kind of being adaptable and ready to be what they need.
Also, Cameron, now when you watch games, do you watch it differently? Are you looking for different things that you can help the student athletes with?
I try sometimes to relax and watch and just be a fan and just be, a fan of the players and stuff. But I always find myself watching and looking and watching how people move, and so movement's a huge piece of what we do. And especially when you start to add resistance, add weight, and so if somebody moves really well in the weight room, hopefully it translates to the field and, or the court. So I always find myself watching how people move. I go to practices to take notes on, kind of things that I see, whether I think somebody isn't being efficient the way that they're fielding ground balls, or if somebody, in golf, if they're rotating, less through their T-spine and more through their low back, and that's just something that we, over time is going to be a bad thing. So I always find myself being like a physiologist. My master's degree was in exercise physiology, and so I kind of go to the kinesiology and the biomechanics and see how people move and stuff like that. But so I try and just be a fan. I try to go as many games and practices as I can because, I want to see the athletes in their element.
Talking with Cameron Dietz. And Cameron, one of the other things I was thinking about here, you mentioned lifting your dog as part of your workout. If people wanted to, did you have that on video somewhere? Can we get a YouTube link or what?
I do. It's on my Instagram. Yeah, it's in there. I think it's the first picture, like the little thumbnail picture should be me holding a dog with a backpack, or I know there's another one where I'm holding like a 40 or 50 pound bag of dog food too. So, just search through the Instagram. You'll find some interesting things. I always tell my athletes I'm more active on Instagram than Twitter. But the athletes like to see themselves on Instagram, and they like to see, the highlight video or recently I put together all the numbers from before and after the semester and kind of, what our verticals were and how they improved and stuff like that. And they like to see that, they like to, be able to show maybe guys that they played with in high school that now they're playing against. Guys that are in different conferences than them, maybe if it's some family, they just like to see themselves online. So, I try and use social media as something to promote them, and let them get to see themselves, and they can share it, and all that kind of stuff. That's what I think. That's why I use my social media for. I try and promote them. So.
Do you see some other positives besides being able to work out with your dog, being creative like that, or some other positives that have come out of the pandemic here?
I think the biggest positive from the pandemic for me has been hopefully people are going to start to realize how important taking care of themselves are. And it can be as simple as just like consistently washing your hands, cleaning your phone and keys. Like those are now a bigger deal, but it's important to take care of yourself. It's important to eat right. It's important to get enough sleep, all those things, because you wear yourself down between being an athlete, having classes and working out and going to practice and having a boyfriend or girlfriend and friends and a social life, all that stuff. Those are all stressors that just kind of wear you down. And so the things that you can do to kind of build yourself back up is take care of yourself, eat right, sleep enough, do some meditating, do some yoga. I've been giving the softball girls early on. We were doing a bunch of yoga and I was sending them out videos and stuff to do. So, just the importance of taking care of yourself and how that can pay off. I know that it seems kind of hard right now to think about that, but I think that's the biggest takeaway, hopefully, that people take from this. Not just WAP, the world's not fair, life's tough. Adapt to it. You can't control what people are going to throw at you, and you can't control pandemics and coronavirus, and you can't control these things. So learn from it, adapt from it, and be better from it.
Well, Cameron, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in the fall at some point here, and good luck with the rest of the summer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that is Cameron Dietz from Utah Valley. Coming up next, we're going to have Rachel's interviews with Destiny Crumpley from Tarleton State University and Kelsey Cook of Dixie State University. You're listening to the WAC Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the WAC Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website at wacsports.com.